subway stations, they'll have a little accordion or a little place for music. People are doing, they look a little bit like Southern dancing, reels and things like that. It's very interesting to see. The music is very pleasant. So, you know, get out there, be open. Safety is everywhere. Safety is everywhere. Chinese on Chinese crime may exist, and it may be treated in a reasonable way, in a normal way that we would treat crime here. But crime against Westerners is treated much more harshly. And so you'll find people do not want to mess with you. We'll talk about the ways in which they will like to mess with you, the scams, the way, the come-ons, and to try and alert you to that.
Let me just quickly jump in here.
Yeah.
Time captains, before we leave that, so you will have to choose somebody who will be your time captain. It doesn't necessarily have to be your group leader, if you have one. It has to be somebody who's on the ball, who's really on time.
Who's an early riser, and very...
Who can go to the hotel room and wake you up. Now, all time captains don't have to wake up everybody else. But some groups like to be woken up, so that's all endogenous.
Yeah.
You guys deal with that.
In fact, we even suggest that you have a second in command, because there's always the possibility that the time captain is one of the people who doesn't wake up. Right? Plan B. We have a captain and an assistant for every group. And in fact, when we get on the buses, that's how Farrokh and I check. We don't check names. We just, you know, there's someone that's going to call. We go group 1, group 2. And we'll hear a response saying that you're all there, who's missing, whatever. That's how we do it. We're very quick about it. It's an efficient way. Thanks for doing that one.
And when you go running in the morning, listen up, folks. If you go running, and again, that's a great suggestion. Be sure to carry the little cards you can pick up from the concierge that has the name of the hotel in Mandarin. Because you know the story I told you this. One year we had 25 members who went running and got lost. And so, remember that, Lewis? And then they showed up just when the wheels were about to turn. 25 panting, sweating members, and they barely made it in time. So, you know, you're off there and suddenly you get disoriented. So don't forget to
It can happen. We hose them down in the river.
Having those cards with you all the time, because if those cards are lost, you
they're
will
really
never see them
great.
again.
No matter where it is you're going, from the hotel, they have these hotel cards. It's a standard procedure. You go to the concierge, you tell them where it is you're going to, they write it in Chinese. They go, and there's actually somebody outside at the taxi queue who's going to put you in the taxi to make sure that the driver knows where he or she is going. They confirm that. And then you can just go. Next thing to remember about the taxi is...
They can't read it.
Well, that's possible.
So what you have here is that I'm a little paranoid, I'm an over-planner, so I have the name of the hotel downloaded beforehand and magnified, because what happened many years, I went to China since 93, a taxi driver showed him the card and he just kept giving it back to me, and he kept taking me to the wrong place. And I kept giving him the card, and I finally realized he couldn't read it. It's too small. And so I learned my lessons out of these giant directions now, which I unfurl.
And in fact, what we will have, not everyone is going to be coming on the main buses that we have in the afternoon of the day that people are coming. We're going to be sending you something that you can download and print out on a whole sheet of paper, which in Chinese will say, "Take me to the Peninsula Hotel." You know, it really does work. And again, even at the airports, they have taxi queues and they have people to organize this. Do not, you know, this is the same information at any airport in the world. You don't go with people who say, "You need a taxi." No, you go to the taxi line. They're authenticated. They write down who took you, the number. They give you a receipt. It's all very organized, and they have hundreds of taxis. It's going to be the same amount of time. And when you give your "Take me to the Peninsula Hotel" to the person in charge of the line, again, that person is going to say to the taxi driver, "You know how to get to the Peninsula Hotel?" Let me tell you, the Peninsula Hotel is a well-known, big hotel. It's right there near the Wang Fujing walking street that we are going to be near. You're going to really enjoy it.
So for taxis, one more thing, make sure the meter is on. Thank you, Lewis, for the meter. So it's okay to say meter, and he'll show you that the meter is on. That's one thing. Sometimes they don't turn the meter on so they can make up the price. So just, it's okay to be a little obnoxious and say meter. And the guy will say meter, and then he'll say something. It's like
off, meter, you know, and they'll do it. I mean, give them some time. They'll turn it on within the first minute. They don't get too crazy about it. At the drop, the meter, I think it's 15 renminbi. Let me write those words out so you can see them. Renminbi, R-E-N-M-I-N-B, yuan, Y. K-W-A-I? Whatever that is. These are all interchangeable. You hear different people say them. Many Westerners, especially from Great Britain, call it kwai. I always call it yuan. But in the regular funds, renminbi, RMB, it all means the same. That's the unit of currency. There's about 6 of them, 6.2 now, to the dollar. If you think about 6, that's probably an easy way of remembering. When they drop the meter, it's 15. That's about $2.50. The entire cost in Beijing to get from the airport to the Peninsula Hotel, depending on traffic, can be anywhere from 80 to 100 yuan. So at most, it's going to be $15. It's not a terribly expensive thing. Tipping, because that always comes up, you're there for the very first time. Tipping in China is not common. It is not common at all. In other words, it's not common to give 5%, 10%, but none of that is common. And you will find in restaurants, if you go out to one of the noodle shops, whatever, they give you the bill, you give them money, they'll give you change. If you leave the change, this happens every year and people are just so shocked, they'll come running out of the restaurant after you to tell you you forgot your change. It's not part of a communist society. And while when you get there, you're going to have enormous difficulty imagining this as a communist society, because it looks just like New York with Starbucks and Pete's Coffee and KFC and Burger King and people on their bicycles and motor scooters and cars. You're really not going to. This at its base is still intended as a communist society, and so tipping one person to another is not common. What do? I'm a Westerner. In taxis or someplace, I'll sometimes leave 1 or 2 yuan. It's a quarter, 30 cents. It's just a tiny little recognition. In taxis, though, I've done it even very surreptitiously. You know, you take it for you're giving your change, and you give me the change, and I just take this and I close his hand and send him on his way, whatever that was. But he's otherwise well taken care of. Exactly. But they have to be careful that they're not spotted taking money, because they can get in trouble for it. So understand, it's not just that it's not a custom. People can get in trouble for taking it, because that's corruption in a sense in your mind.
Patching a few things. Lewis mentioned reading the guidebook. You don't have too much free time on your own, so make it count. You know, some of you might want to go to the military museum, or the Mao's statue, Mao's tomb, or Summer Palace, or whatever. So just go through a guidebook, because frankly, almost 80% of the fun of a trip is the anticipation. And generally speaking, if the expectation is sometimes even better. Remember as kids, before the holidays came, the expectations are almost as high, if not better, than the actual thing. So see what you want to do. Don't just kind of go off and go to a club. That's fine too, but if there's something you really want to see, make it count. Yeah. And use your free afternoon, and 2, 3 of you might take a taxi and go. So make it count.
Have the right attitude. Be open to new things. You're in a new country, a place you may never have been before. And even for those people who have traveled to China before for business, when you go on business, they very certainly tend to show you certain things they want you to see. And you're always being escorted. You're always being guided by someone. And so you're not mixing with people. You're not on the subway. You're not on the buses. You're not on bicycles. You're not seeing it the way you really might see it if you were a tourist. So be open to all those possibilities. You'll see lots of stuff. One of the stuff that we're hoping that you will try is the food. Chinese food in America is not like Chinese food in China. Vegetables in China, just the one thing I always, they're so beautiful. They cook they don't mix a lot of foods in China. When you're getting vegetables, you get vegetables. When you're getting a meat dish, it's a meat dish. You won't find this mixed with cashews, mixed with this. Lots of separate things, and people then put it onto their plates however they want to. For those of you who are picky eaters, let's start off by telling you that every single day that we are in China, we start off with a buffet breakfast in the hotel that is absolutely sumptuous. They will have an area that's halal. They will have an area that's vegetarian. They'll have an area that's Western. They'll have an area that's European. The Europeans tend to eat salads in the breakfast with sliced meats and little rolls. They'll have eggs and omelets that they'll make for you. They'll have fresh fruit. It's huge. Yogurts and coffees and teas and cappuccino. Whatever you want, they have. There's no charge for it. Just ask for it. They're happy to give it to you. But the key to that is we want you to have a full, solid breakfast in case you don't really care for what comes at lunch. You know, you'll quickly learn about the Chinese Lazy Susan, and I hope you will try the interesting new foods. I love it, I have to tell you, I really do. And sometimes you're tasting things that don't look familiar to you. Try it anyway. I would never have discovered lotus root except for trying things that looked unusual to me, the way it was cut, and it was really delicious. Do you? Yes.
And the meals, folks, practice the chopsticks.
Yes.
And when the Lazy Susan thing happens, use the other end to take the food out.
Right. You take the big end, you take the food out, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not so good with chopsticks, even after all these years. I pick the whole plate up, and I use the back of the thing to push it off. That's, if you know, at some point you gotta eat. There will be some restaurants that will even put out forks and spoons and knives for you, but try to resist. Try to resist. Try and eat that. The other thing that you need to know about Lazy Susans is two people can't be turning at the same time. It's sort of a shocking idea, but you know, you have to work together. You have to work together. The other thing that's funny is, and I can assure you at our first meal we'll have it 3 or 4 times, you've left a serving spoon in the dishes, and you send it around, and you don't realize that the spoon is sticking out beyond it, and it ends up going around and taking out 3 glasses along with it. It comes around. So, you know, just stick it in the back of your mind. It's really quite wonderful.
So while we're on the food, vegetarians, we had a vegetarian revolt 3 years ago. You know, so it's every year we ask for real vegetarian for the. How many hardcore vegetarians are there?
I think we'll have at least one table, and they've registered with Teresa.
Yes. So
What we're doing, because you know, in China they don't really get vegetarians. They understand vegetables, but unless you're really careful, they will think nothing of serving vegetables with a meat sauce. And so we've come up with the phrase "what the llamas eat," and they do get that. And so it really is vegetarian.
As in Buddhist priests, not animals.
We grew up with a total meat-eating background in Tibet. They didn't have vegetables. But they do understand what we mean by saying what the llamas eat. And on top of that, we give the vegetarian table a menu, and they usually can select 2 or 3 additional pieces just to add to it something more interesting. For everyone else, the menu will be set, and there's lots of stuff. At every one of those tables, there will be some pork dishes, some chicken dishes, some vegetarian dishes. There will always be a soup that comes, usually in the middle. They don't always put the soup at the beginning. And there will always be a fish. And the fish is just wonderful. They will serve a whole fish. Yes, the head will be there. The eyes will be there. They wouldn't dream of serving you a fish that didn't have its head and its eyes. Why? Because not to have that is to tell you that it was not fresh. Right? In the Hong Kong style, people go into the restaurant and actually pick out the fish they want from huge tanks. They take it, and that's what you get on the plate. So they're into freshness. They want you to know that everything has been cooked well, and you will enjoy that.
So the food, the really vegetarian food, the Buddhist food is called suture. Think of suture. And for the Indian vegetarian people, you may want to smuggle in some pickles because there's a spice deprivation. And halfway through, yeah, it gets to be really annoying.
You know, one of the other things that some people did who were vegetarian that you might consider is going to the camping store and getting some ready-to-eats. The ones that you can just pour water into, hot water, and taking along 2 or 3 of them. Just, you know, if it's something especially like if you feel you haven't had much along the way, they're not terribly heavy, you know, dehydrated, and, you know, don't fill a whole suitcase with food. That's crazy. Bring a couple of things along, it's perfectly fine. And so, now we're talking about things to bring.
Yes.
Yes, you know, we didn't talk about that. Trip over. All of you are coming on airplanes. Get there by boat too. And so the key on airplanes is to remember, I know many of you travel a lot, but when you're traveling 13, 14, 15 hours, you need to take special precautions, particularly for DVT, deep vein thrombosis. You're sitting in a position, the blood is collecting down towards your legs. You don't want to have clots develop. There are exercises that you can do right in your seat, and the airplane will have as part of its video system, about every 2 or 3 hours, they'll remind you how to do exercises, just twisting feet. But you can do it much simpler just by getting up and walking around a little bit, exercising. Whatever it is you do, get the blood moving. It's a helpful thing. I also wear, like sub-hose. It's not a heavy thing. It's not like those old medicinal ones. You can buy them for $1 or $2. I wear them over my socks just for the trip over and the trip back. That also helps to prevent it. But you actually had it.
I've had problems with my knee, but we've had somebody in class, one of the others, her ankles got swollen. So loosen your laces, walk about, lots of water in the plane. I would stay away from too much alcohol. In fact, no alcohol.
You can avoid it.
And if you can avoid it, it's not a good idea because this is a long haul. Some of you have done long haul flights, but some of you haven't. So this is a 14-hour long haul, and so it's a whole different ballgame.
I put myself into a certain state of mind. I do this regularly. When I get onto the plane, you get through all the craziness, and you finally sit down, you put your stuff away. I take out some magazines in my book. I put it in the pocket in front of me, and then I remind myself, Lewis, you are now a prisoner. A prisoner. You're going to sit in this seat on this airplane until it is finished. There's no point in looking at your watch to see what time it's leaving. There's no point in looking to see what time it's arriving. When it gets there, it will get there. Unless you're going to attack the captain and take over the running of the plane, you're not getting there any faster. So just put it out of your mind. Relax. You're there for the duration. And the nice thing about it, if you're with the group that's coming anytime around 1 or 2 o'clock on that afternoon, we will be there to greet you and get you onto buses, get your luggage, get things settled. There's also, I'm noticing there's a large group of people who are apparently coming in late night, 11 o'clock, 11:30. There's perhaps a dozen.
Which flight is this one?
It's, is it the Emirates flight?
Yes.
Yeah, the Emirates flight that's coming in. We will do our best to see that there is a van for you.
How many of you can be? Sorry, how many of you?
It's about a dozen.
Wow.
One, yeah, it's a big group that I
That
saw.
flight or what?
It's a cheap flight.
It's also coming in at midnight.
Yeah, and that's fine. The airport never closes down, and we will do our best to get that, and we'll get that information to you. It'll be somebody who, as you're coming through, will have a big Rutgers sign, and we'll be able to put you into a van so that all of you together can come to the hotel. Your rooms are reserved.
One more thing is, once you get to security, buy your bottle of water. They don't give you enough, so don't get dehydrated. Indulge me here. And also on the plane, kind of be a little considerate because when you have 20, 15 members, we kind of take over.
Yeah.
So just try to remember.
We don't want you to be considered a terrorist group. And let me tell you, the airplane people really do get nervous when they see 10 people congregating at the bathrooms, the galley, whatever. And why do you do that? Because that's the only open space. They're going to tell you to sit down. They're going to ask you to, they'll do it nicely for a while. But every year we hear reports that it got to the point where they're about to call the captain to come out and quell the rebellion. Please, enjoy the trip. There is no need to discuss any macroeconomic theories on the way over.
It's true. One year they were going to meet outside the pantry and read books on leadership or something, and then discuss some little group discussion. As a group discussion, divergent from our thought.
I will also tell you Happily, it was not my group, but it was Farrokh's group. Before we started, even he will remember this. It's already, what, 8 years that we're going to China with the group, but before that, we used to go to Europe. And we used to go to Cambridge, someplace in Central Europe and someplace in Eastern Europe. And because the place in Cambridge couldn't take more than 20 students at a time, we didn't actually travel together. We used to divide the groups up. So I used to go to Frankfurt and Krakow in Poland, and Farrokh used to go to Budapest and Brussels. And I can still remember you being so pissed off that he was they were on a double-decker bus in Brussels, and they're taking this great tour, open bus, beautiful weather, with people explaining all of what they're looking at, and somebody is staring into the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times and trying to engage Farrokh in a macroeconomics discussion. Folks, there's a time and place for everything. When you're in China, enjoy it. Take it all in. Be, big eyes. You can do your reading and studying afterwards. Okay?
I have a question for the people that are coming in the day before. There's quite a few of us.
How many are coming the day before? Wow.
So,
Are you coming on the continental flight?
yes. Also, Air Canada.
It's, again, we'll get this stuff. Teresa is going to sum up all of this stuff for us, see who's coming in at particular times. And again, if we see a group of people, we can get a van for as few as 6 to 8 people. It's not a problem. We can arrange for that to have you picked up and set up. And in fact, for, let's see, you're coming in on that flight.
Aren't you coming on the same day?
We're coming in a day ahead, and you're on the continental flight from Newark? Okay, so some of you are going to be on the same flight with Farrokh. I'm coming in from
Sorry to hear that.
Farrokh will be wearing a disguise. Do you have your burger ready?
Well, that's the
And I'm coming in on the flight, the United flight to San Francisco, about a half an hour later. You're on that one, the day before. So we'll see each other.
On the 31st?
On the 31st. Yeah.
Chris and I are from San Francisco.
Okay, so we'll be on that same flight. 889, I think it is. And it's funny. You're seeing a lot of stuff going on now with the blind activists in China. It's been in the news lately. And with repression of discussion about it inside China, people have taken to using all kinds of code words to discuss him on their mini blogs. And so, of course, it started out as the blind activist, then it was the blind man, then they had and that got pushed aside. Then they came up with a singer who's a blind singer, and they're using that name as it. The last one they started using is UA868, which is the United flight daily from Beijing to Washington, D.C. So never underestimate the creativity of people to get information out. When you think they're not getting it, they're getting it.
One more thing, when you come into Beijing airport, folks, do not stop and get SIM cards for your cell phones.
Yeah, wait on that.
Yeah, please just get out. There'll be
And
more
don't stop for
opportunities.
cash. Don't stop at the ATM. There are ATMs all over town, everywhere, and they have the same places. You may find one bank that doesn't have a plus, but has a Cirrus. Within a half a block, you'll find 3 ATMs on every block. And if you just look at the back of your bank cards, you'll see what they say. Mine is a Cirrus on this card. Another card may be a plus. They have HSBC banks if you bank with them. It's the same as banking here, so you don't need to
Yeah,
be.
get out of the airport because we need to get
Exactly.
out of the traffic. So if you see anybody stopping, just push them out.
Right.
So don't stop in the airport. Just come out to the
Especially
lobby.
for those afternoon people.
Yeah.
We're trying to get on the bus as soon as possible because rush hour is not pleasant in Beijing or Shanghai. So there you have your flights coming in 1:45. It's going to take you half an hour to get off the plane and get through and collect your luggage. If we could actually leave by 2:15 or 2:30 or even 2:45, we will miss a lot of the traffic and get you into town much faster. If there's no traffic, it's about a half an hour ride. If there is traffic, it can be as long as an hour.
Speaking of credit cards, this is important. Let your credit card company know that you're going to be in China, or they may think there's some weird activity, and carry a backup credit card just in case something. And of course, call both the companies.
The other thing you want to find out about your credit cards, if you don't already know, find out if any of the credit cards you have do not charge foreign transaction fees. Many cards now charge a foreign transaction fee, but not all of them do. And if you can find one that doesn't, obviously that's the one that you should be using while you're over there. Things to bring with you, small stuff. Purell spray, Purell lotion. You're not going to find a lot of places to clean your hands. We go to lunch. Yes, you can wash your hands. The water in China is usable to wash your hands, to shower, all of that. It is not drinkable. It is not drinkable. It is drinkable for the locals, like in many places in Europe or wherever else. It's drinkable for the locals because they're used to whatever bacteria is in it. Their systems are adjusted. Yours are not. Yours are not. And unless you want to get the Chinese equivalent of the revenge in Mexico, please, you carry water with you. We will have water on the bus all the time. The hotels will provide you with 2 or 3 bottles, small bottles of water there. And that includes things like your morning ablations. You dip the toothbrush into the clean water before you brush your teeth. You wash your mouth out with the clean water. You take your pills with that water. If you use it, you forget, and you use it on your toothbrush, is something going to happen? No, it's not really going to happen to you. You're just spitting it out, But please, try and think of all those things. You don't use that water except for showering, washing your hands. Carry Purell with you. Do not, you can carry it over to China in your hand luggage, but I'll remind you again, when we're transferring from Beijing to Shanghai, you can't carry the Purell in your hand luggage. The Chinese have decided that it's an explosive. I have no idea why. You just go with the program. So I'll remind you. Yeah, that's the next thing. Small packages of facial tissue. Those little, in Germany they call them Taschentücher, the little packages of facial tissue. Bring 2 or 3 with you. Why? The Chinese don't believe in napkins. It's just one of these crazy things. When you're in a nice restaurant, if you're lucky, you'll get a napkin that's that big. And it's really skinny and skimpy. So have your own stuff. The other thing is, there are times when you'll go into restrooms and there's no toilet paper. So don't bring rolls of toilet paper. Right. But bring it. Oh. Right. Okay. You've heard it here. I mean, be careful about it. For the guys, it's not an issue. They have urinals, whatever. We tend not to have big problems with this. But for the women, where the other thing, if you've never...
Keep going.
How does it work?
There are 2 types of toilets in China, and the predominant one is not our style with a bench and stool and bath. They call those old man toilets, grandpa toilets. Other than that, it's usually just a hole of it. It's a private room, but it's a hole in the floor, and you squat. This is something. Well, this is just a regular, and they're not terrible. They're clean. If you want to learn, there's nothing wrong with learning a new style. I just don't want you to get into a bathroom and discover that that's the kind of bathroom they have and think that they took the toilets out. You open the door and say, where's the toilet? There's a bathroom. It's okay.
You should be okay. Mostly where we are,
yeah.
I think, and they're rated. The toilets have a rating outside, like 1 star, 2 star. I'm not getting it.
Okay, this is actually a time for us to talk about some good news, some bad news. Also, talking about bathrooms. We had promised you the Peninsula Hotel in Beijing, and it turns out that's not going to work out. In Shanghai, the Howard Johnson's is still there. Based on the costs and everything that went through, we are staying still near downtown, but and they will be completely our floors. So we're going to have 2 floors in it's sort of a higher class university dormitory setting. Sometimes this happens. It's happened, twice in 8 years. We will put the women on 1 floor, the men on 1 floor, and start thinking about it now. We're going to need for you to double up. You'll find someone, just for the time we're in Beijing, it's 3 days, 4 days. The only other thing, and that's why I talk about the bathrooms, one of the floors will be a men's bathroom, one of the floors will be a women's bathroom, And so you may have to oh no, it'll be men. So all the men will be on the floor, not have their own bed, so you won't have to go up and down for it. But just so you know that, we'll get that settled up for you and the exact name. Well, they're not really communal. I mean, it's a big bathroom, but it's well, and they have covers and whatever. You don't have that. We'll deal with that.
They get used to it.
You're one.
He was trying to keep his face serious.
Did you give it away again? He's such a terrible liar.
You gave it up. Scratching your head. We go violent.
No, we're staying at the peninsula. You all get Listerine meltaways. We're just trying to see if we can stay away. We always take 3 or 4 packages of this. This is always, and it's important in China, frankly, it's important everywhere. And what I'm going to tell you is, if you haven't heard this before, somebody you're with has bad breath. Take one yourself. Take one yourself. And frankly, if anyone ever offers it to you, take it. I mean, this is just good business. You don't want to have lunch, you're not thinking about it, there it is. I have no stock in any of these companies. Clothing. Oh, let's talk about clothing.
Yes.
Matched sets of suit materials, pants and jackets, separates for men and women both. Pick a color, ladies, whether it's a brown, a blue, a black, and figure out clothes that can be interchangeable. It's because, why am I talking about this? Because weight is an issue. Weight in the transfer between Beijing and Shanghai. You're not going to have any issues with weight and baggage between the States and Beijing, and you're not going to have any issues with weight between Shanghai and coming back. You'll get at least one 50-pounder, which is much more than you can carry. The problem is on the transfer between Beijing and Shanghai, they use the international system, which is 44 pounds. 44 pounds, absolute. 20 kilos.
This is very real.
They weigh it. They weigh it, and they charge us if it is a pound over.
Per person or per bag?
Per person. Per person. 44 pounds total. How do you get away with a little bit? You get away with it because of your carry-on. You know, people carry very nice carry-ons, you know, like sacks practically, but you sort of push it to the back. Don't pack that carry-on when you're going over. Try your best to keep it to 44 pounds going from here to Beijing and carry almost nothing in your carry-on. Why? Because you're going to want to go shopping, right? If you come with 44 pounds in the bag and a full over the shoulder, how are you going to add to that? You can't. So 44 pounds. And doing the matching sets is very important. Where do women get in trouble? They get in trouble with shoes. Always shoes. You need a pair of sneakers. You need to wear, maybe you'll wear those sneakers and carry no more than 2 pairs of shoes on top of that. You really, really have to limit yourself in shoes. That's right.
Oh, geez.
So think about that. How do you dress up what you're going to wear as separates? Well, one very lightweight is scarves, different scarves, a couple of pieces of jewelry that set something else off. For women, that's really where it comes down to. You do not want to be doing laundry in any of these hotels. Last year, somebody just couldn't believe that her laundry bill was $212 for her underwear. Not for suits, $212. It's ridiculous. There are no coin laundries. There are no coin laundries anywhere. It's an amazing thing. For the men, there is no need to bring suits. There is no need to bring suits. Same story. Bring a nice sports jacket, bring a couple of different colors of pants, different shirts that you can wear. That's all you need. You don't need more. Bring a pair of jeans, bring 2 pairs of nice business slacks, khakis, and in a couple of colors, wash pants that you can wear with a nice, bring a couple of ties that you can mix and match, the same thing. The guys tend not to have such a big problem. Usually they can manage with 1 pair of shoes and sneakers. That's all they really need.
How many outfits do you need?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Temperature is the question here is it can range, the highs can range anywhere from 72 up to 90, 92, and it has humidity like Newark. It can have high humidity from time to time. All of the hotels are air conditioned. All of our buses are air conditioned. Not all of our business visits are air conditioned. Were you along on the tomato visit?
Yes.
We went, it was 94, 95 degrees out. We went to a factory where they processed tomatoes. And we walked in, and it was unbearable. It was about 105 just in the watching area. What was really unbelievable is we would look through these plexiglass, and we saw people with huge vats. They were 20 foot tall, cooking tomatoes, boiling tomatoes, and these people were wearing rubber outfits. Rubber outfits. And it was 10 degrees, no, it was about 15 degrees more there. When we got to the meeting room, it was 10 degrees more than, it was about 110, 112 in there. We just couldn't wait to get out of there. The other really bizarro part of that was at the very end, where we came out of this factory, and there's a whole news broadcasting system group of people out there taking our pictures, and we're on television for some reason that we don't know. We don't know why we're on television. And we get an answer that they need a spokesperson from our group. And who ends up being the spokesperson for the group but moi? And I'm there, and they're asking questions about, were we impressed with the friendliness of the, apparently this was bought by the company to meet us. And they're asking questions. We were really sandbagged, and I'm trying to answer these questions. I have no idea what the agenda is. I know nothing about the tomato industry in China. I know just whatever, and and people are standing around listening to these answers. My skills as a lawyer were absolutely put to the test. I actually gave a 15-minute interview, and I don't believe I said anything. It's really a skill. Let me tell you, I should practice. But I mean, the last question is one more. I finally figured it out. They wanted to know whether I thought that the Chinese tomato industry could compete with the big American companies like Del Monte and Hunt. And what could I say, since I don't know anything about those companies either? I said, globalism requires that everybody try their best. And why is there any reason to imagine that China could not compete with the best in the world? They love that. Handshaking. I have no idea where it appeared on television. Maybe there's even a YouTube out there. Oh, no. There's no YouTube in China. There's no YouTube in China. There's no Facebook in China. You'll discover that when we visit Baidu. And we will be visiting Baidu, which is a phenomenal visit. But you can look that up.
We're going back to the weather and Beijing and stuff. The allergies are pretty bad. Pollution, we've been lucky the last few times, but pollution can be really bad, really bad. And so if you have any kind of allergy problems, upper respiratory, then make sure you get your allergy medication. And also, I strongly recommend this. Have your doctor prescribe some antibiotic, like a Z-Pack, upper respiratory. So just in case you get an infection, because there is no plan B there. So I carry Cipro with me. And I always have Z-Packs. Z-Packs might work for you, they don't work for me.
This is where you see the difference between the very cautious and the not very cautious. I don't carry any of those things with me. I've never gotten any injections or precautions. I've never gotten sick. I do carry. Yeah, I did lose my voice in Hong Kong. I did bring Tylenol if there's something special or a leave or something you could like that. Don't assume that just because they have drugstores like a CVS type thing, they call them Watsons, that they have it, that you can get the same brands. That's not often the case. So if there's something special that you like or want.
So Pepsid, Imodium,
Yes.
just
Yeah,
let
those
them do that for us.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's best to just carry it. You know, you
Yeah.
probably won't.
You can find Pepto-Bismol there. It's pricey, but there we go. Please.
Sure. Yeah.
How many days, like,
I didn't do it,
I'm
Shayda.
trying to figure out, like, business clothes versus sightseeing.
Well, actually, you can go to the student zone. At this point, they have the whole itinerary up on the student zone. I can tell you just off the top of my head that the day that you arrive is casual. Saturday and Sunday is casual. We'll be going to Tiananmen Square and the Forbidden City those days. Hats. If you think of it, bring a hat along. The Forbidden City particularly is very open. We're there in the afternoon when that sun beats down on you. Boy,
Yeah, it's concrete. It's very.
it's all concrete. It just pours on you.
This is important. The ladies will say, no, we don't wear hats, we don't wear caps. It messes up their hair.
Life will change for you.
What will happen? What happens is every year, all the women end up buying caps because it's so
And they're not expensive. You know, for $1 you can buy a straw hat.
the cheesy caps like a climb the Great Wall and Chairman. And so just get a good hat and cap from here. Trust me, Forbidden City is horribly hot. It's
So
like
that Friday, Saturday, Sunday is casual. Monday in Beijing is our business visit. Tuesday is casual. That's our transfer day. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are all business days in Shanghai, and Saturday is a casual day. So
And business for women, slacks and fine.
yes, slacks with a nice top. Let me tell you, when you're looking for your slacks and you're looking for your tops, pick the nicest travel stuff you can. You are going to be amazed. Chinese women, they say the #1 hobby among Chinese women is shopping. And they are great shoppers. They are beautiful dressers. Beautiful dressers. You may also be surprised. They wear clothes for business that is a little skimpier than you would see in the States. It's often a little surprising to me. They're not into mini skirts, but they're close to mini skirts with suit tops. The other thing, just get over the idea of sizes. Please don't take insult. Don't take insult that you wear a size 6 here and you're a 3X in China. Just get over it. The sizes in China, I bought something for Pat Thompson and the sizes are just amazing. You walk in, first of all, because they're often short, the sizes are petites. The guys have no idea about this, I don't think, but they're petites, and then the sizes go like 4, 2, 0. Did you know there were size 0? Did you know that there are sizes smaller than 0? I kept thinking, what could be smaller than a 0? A double 0. And they have triple zeros. It's unbelievable. They have a lot of small people. The other thing, when you're going to buy all kinds of knockoffs, and we'll talk a little bit about that. What I want you to also understand about the Chinese is they don't buy knockoffs. They buy the real thing. They save up and they buy the Swarovski. They save up and buy the real watches and the real clothes. They really do dress beautifully in the cities. You will be impressed by. So don't skimp on what you're bringing. Bring stuff that can pack, that's lightweight, but try and pick the nicest things you have. Even if it's just your regular stuff, but you have a beautiful silk scarf. Something like that. Bring those along. That'll be very nice.
The irons, yeah, the irons. Hotel rooms are very, very good. It's probably the
Yeah,
best hotel
don't
room.
worry about your electrical connections. There's at least 1 or 2 connections in the room that are going to be Western connections. You don't need to bring adapters with you. It's unnecessary. Just set up with that. The bathrooms are palatial. They also always provide bathrobes. Don't waste any weight with bathrobes or slippers. Every room is going to have free slippers and free bathrobes. They're really just lovely. Air conditioning. And in fact, let's talk about how you get air conditioning in your room.
Yeah.
This is a wonderful, sensible method for a lot of hotels. When you walk into the room and there's lights on the wall, there's also going to be a place for you to slip your room key in. And your room key activates all the electricity in the room. So you walk in, it's dark, you get your key, and all of a sudden the lights come on. What is that about? When you take your key out to go, it turns off all the electricity in the room. It saves on that. If it's a really hot day, let me tell you, you don't have to use your room card to turn the electricity on. Actually, any card works. And so I often, when it's 95 degrees out, I really don't want to come back to a room that has to take an hour and a half to cool down. So while I will turn the air conditioning up to a more reasonable number, I will usually leave a card of some sort of a library card. Anything that looks like that goes in. I'll leave that on when I'm gone. So, but remember that you're going to have to put a card in for the electricity.
Blow dryer is not necessary.
Blow dryer is not necessary. They have them. They're under the sink or to the side there. They have all the mirrors. You know, there'll be a makeup mirror or whatever, the close-up mirrors. They're all there. Anything you imagine that a bathroom could have, they have it. And almost all of the bathrooms will have separate showers from bathtubs. They will have bathtubs as well if that's what you like.
And you know, regarding connectivity, folks, the high-speed internet's very high-speed, but the thing is, just get the word out with friends, family, work, that you're going to be kind of out of circulation, because you will be on those work days. We leave early, come back late at night, and then there's a 12-hour difference. And so just get the word out that you're not going to be as responsive, so this way you don't stress out.
For the people who absolutely don't need to bring computers, don't bring them. Even for people who may have to do some work, if you can avoid bringing your computer in that weight, do it. All of the hotels have business centers, and usually they give you 10 or 15 minutes free to just check your emails, do that kind of some quick response. Don't waste time. Don't feel, you know, let the business know. They know you're here. They gave their support for your coming here. Count on it. This is a time when you are in class. Think of it as a class. Yes, you get some free time in it, but part of that free time is intending for you to be learning about other cultures. That's part of this thing. How are you going to eventually make a switch over for 2 or 3 years to some foreign country? We have a program in Shanghai for a whole morning. We bring a couple of expats in who have been in our program, and they talk about what it was to move their whole families, their businesses. What did they take care of with schools, spouses who perhaps don't work but need a social support as well. How do you manage restaurants? Where do you live? How do you set up? Who helps you in the house? All of that, you'll get that. Most of our students there say that going international was the only real way to move up to the sea level in their companies. You're going to have to do a 2 or 3 year stint somewhere, and it's not always going to be London. You know, sometimes it's going to be a place that requires more challenges. And China, I suppose, has as much challenges as any place. Maybe not Afghanistan, but there we go.
The internet, one last thing, that's cost. So it's a small charge for it from the hotel room, unlike our 5-star hotels. So, or was it in the peninsula? I don't know, I can't remember. Free? Okay.
It's going to be free. We got that included in the room rate. But if you can avoid it, do try to avoid it. Sightseeing days, clothes for sightseeing days. You know, it used to be you never saw short pants, shorts in China. Men did not wear them, women did not wear them. You'd see people in the morning even practically dressed in pajama type stuff, you know, sweats and a t-shirt going down to have a little breakfast at the end of the alley. There'd be a cart. But you never saw shorts. The men's air conditioning system, you still see sometimes, they roll their shirts up from the waist. I have no idea what that's about. They walk around with bare midriffs as air conditioning. But things have changed. I used to say, don't even bring shorts. You know, it's not appropriate to be insulting. That's changed. They've gotten very Americanized with all of that, and you'll see shorts everywhere. So on your sightseeing days, on those warm days, don't hesitate to wear T-shirts, to wear short pants. You'll have your hat, dark glasses, bring sunglasses along. Sunscreen, yeah, it could be. There's only one time that I'm going to remind you, it's on our transfer day to Shanghai, that bare shoulders is not going to be permitted, not permitted at all. Why? One of our visits is to the Jade Buddha Temple in Shanghai. When we arrive in Shanghai, we come into the Hangzhou airport, the local airport, and we immediately get on a bus and we start the tour of Shanghai. We go right to the Yuyuan Gardens and have a wonderful lunch. And from there, after we see the gardens, we go to the Jade Buddha temple and see that and have a tea ceremony if there's time. But in the Jade Buddha temple, as it's a religious center, bare shoulders is not appropriate. So that's the day that you need to wear just, short sleeves is fine, but no whatever you call those, skinny tank tops, thank you. So that baggage. I know you must travel. I'm not the first one to tell you about the 311s, no more than 3 ounces, creams, gels, all that kind of stuff, and they're just insane. They really are. I mean, if you go through this often enough, just more and more bizarre stuff comes up. Like the people who couldn't bring the cupcakes through because there was a determination that the icing classified as a cream, and they believe that it might be more than 3 ounces. Just be prepared for it. You have to suspend belief when you go through security. Just suspend belief. In China, you'll be amazed to see how they handle security. It's the same thing, you take your stuff out, you take computers out, and then they send you through. And let me assure you, don't be nervous. No matter what you've taken out, you're going to buzz. You're always going to buzz in China. Why? Because they have 5 people waiting to stand you up on the thing and make work. They buzz you. They've now checked somebody else. They're very perfunctory. Nobody bothers. I've even seen in China where people have forgotten to take their liquids out. And if it doesn't happen a lot, they come through and they take your carry-on bag and they pull out a bottle of water and they say, "Is this yours?" And you say, yes, I'm so sorry. They don't even listen to you. They flip open the top and give it to you and say, "Drink." And you drink and they say, "Don't do that again." They put it back in and send you on your way. Very clever, very clever.
And try, sometimes somebody bought a little helicopter thing for his kid, those remote control things. And they went in, kept security, took it out, and he basically got to mail it.
Yeah.
And so he was all stressed with
Exactly.
the toy.
And then, of course, there was our brilliant student who took a full set of darts.
Lawn darts?
That definitely didn't make it. They especially sharpened.
But the thing is, that's the helicopter story. So we said, you know what, why don't you try another security line? And this time say nothing. So he didn't say anything and he went right through. So in other words, just don't say anything. If you want a helicopter in your bag. Those are great deals, man. If you like remote control toys, those are amazing. $10 to come and get them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not bad. But, think about this. You can buy the same thing in Beijing as you can in Shanghai. Buy it in Shanghai. And you don't have to worry about your weight or going through any stuff. And in fact, that's what we're going to suggest on a lot of stuff. That you not buy much that weighs very much in Beijing. We'll tell you in just a second what are the things to buy. Going through financial information, we got the backup credit card, we have your ATM card.
For cash. Carry about a couple of $300 just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case your cards don't work, your ATM doesn't work.
You can always check cash money, and you can always exchange it in the hotel. In fact, this happened to me just this last trip. I got to China, I was in Beijing just 3 weeks ago, and I got there and I do all of this careful stuff, but I put stuff into a new little wallet that I carry. And I forgot to transfer my bank card to this wallet. So I got to China, and I didn't have my bank card, which is what I always do. I take money out of the ATM. So I didn't have any cash. I had about 200 yuan from before. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? But I always carry $200 cash with me. And so this time I ended up having to charge a little bit more. But I was able to exchange cash for yuan. And what I discovered after waiting 20 minutes online at the bank is that they have the exact same rate as the hotel, where I would have had to wait 30 seconds. So wherever you do it, it's going to be the same. They don't. Very few places charge a fee. Now, Marty?
Do they take credit cards in the taxi cabs?
No, not the ones that you have. Yes, they do take credit cards. Each city has now sort of like a transportation card. It's almost like a Metro card from New York, but it's a little thicker than this. It's sort of like a credit card, and you can use it in taxis, buses, subways, and just run it through. But we don't have it. They'll take cash.
If you come into the airport, as we're waiting for the other people, go to ATMs there. So Lou and I will take you to the ATMs. So most of them have cash. Get out of the airport first. Get out after baggage claim.
Yeah,
After
when you come,
see us,
we'll send you to where the machines are if you want it, or else you'll wait till the hospital. Tammy?
Some of us are coming in from Hong Kong. Is the currency in Hong Kong and China
Completely
the same?
different.
Oh, different.
Yes.
Okay.
Please think of Hong Kong as a different country.
Okay.
It's under the protectorate, if you will, of China. They have their own currency. They have their own visa system. It's just completely different. Please.
Will they take dollars after taxes?
No. They do not take American currency. They don't take any other currency except Chinese currency. It's a different place. It's not like Mexico. And actually, even Mexico, if you got out of the big place, they won't take anything but pesos.
Yeah, actually, I have a Chinese colleague of mine who just visited there recently, and she said to stay with smaller denominations about possible.
Yes, that's a very good point. I didn't bring it with me. The Chinese currency, they have 100s. 100 is the largest size generally that you'll see. 50s, 20s, 10s, 5s. 5 is about the equivalent of $1, it's less than $1. Below that, they have coins. They really are one paper, but you don't see very much of it. It's almost all coins. Try and stick with nothing larger than 50s. 100s make them very nervous. Counterfeiting exists in China just as it does in other parts of the world. Anybody know the #1 counterfeiter in the world?
North Korea.
North Korea, that's it. And North Korea is supposedly friends with China, is nevertheless infiltrating with billions of fake yuan. On our first day, we'll show you what they're about, but generally, if you look up, you'll see that there's a line going through it. It's a silver paper in between, and you can see 2 different watermarks in it. But try and avoid the hundreds if you can. If you're getting money out of machines, you'll get mostly hundreds. There it is. Is it possible still to be screwed out of in a machine? Very, very, very seldom. But in fact, we had one happen to a faculty member from Simler. I had never heard of it happening before out of an ATM. There was a bank actually gave a counterfeit. Sometimes even they can miss. What's your downside if you get a counterfeit 100? Don't get yourself crazy. It's $15. I can assure you, you've all spent $15 on something junky before. But be careful about it. 50s, 20s, 10s, 5s. Also,
I just pass it on to someone else. I've got several counterfeits. And just move it along to somebody else.
But of course, for those of you who are ethical,
Is that our
Leading news.
I'm not going to take a lot of time on visas. When we finish this presentation, and we may do it by the break is what time? 10:45?
Sorry,
10:15? We may have to come back after the break, but you'll still have some time after this lecture, at least an hour or so left after we finish. And during that time, I'll collect all of your visas, take your money. If you have a moment right now and you're giving me a check, the checks are made out to me. Again, I take your checks when I get back to California a week from yesterday. I will endorse them. Actually, I won't even do it then. I'll go in the next Monday. I'll endorse them, finish endorsing them, and deposit. So you get a float of about a week on the money. The Chinese embassy does not take checks. They don't even take cash. They will only take credit cards at this point. So I put all of yours on my credit card. It's not a problem for me. I pay my bill off every month, so there's no interest. It's not a problem. So don't worry about that. But if I could ask you right at this point, if you have checks, to endorse it with these numbers. Every year for the last 5 years, I've spent an hour and a half endorsing 70 checks. And if you simply write those numbers on a deposit only, you will save me an enormous amount of time. 015-000-442884. On the back, yeah. On the back, and write deposit only. Then all I have to do is sign my name and deposit. Okay. For those of you who are carrying non-American passports, I have all the additional documents that you may need with me now. You need, from me, you're going to have a Oh, sorry. Where you normally endorse a check. Here's, you've written the check. Sorry. On the very back, up at the very top, you simply write those numbers, 015-000, and then deposit only. I know a lot of you don't do this anymore because everything is direct deposited, so it's not like endorsing things too much. Yeah, Kerman. Sorry, I'll write your name.
It's 140, right, Lewis?
Yeah,
140.
$140 per visa. Remember that non-American visas are less expensive. $30 for singles, $45 for doubles.
It is. The thing goes for resident, it's the same thing for 10 years.
No, that would not be helpful. That would not be helpful. I think I have an unusual signature. They recognize it.
68.
Lewis, folks, don't forget business cards.
Yes.
Don't forget your business cards because of the networking events. You have to hand them out and remember.
Exactly. And even for those of you who are working anywhere in the publishing industry, and I said to you, don't do anything on this form that looks like publishing. Go ahead and have some cards made up. You can go to Office Max and get 100 cards made up for $5, $6. It just has your name on it, an address and whatever, so that you can still exchange cards with people. But it doesn't say like
John Wiley.
yeah, it's like John Wiley. So Marty is not going to have cards that say John Wiley. He's just going to have cards that say Martin Schechter and his address and phone number and email. And again, of course, you're going to use an email that's not from your business. What is this all about? China does not want to bring anybody in who could potentially be reporting for newspapers or for television or things like that unless they know about it. It would not stop you from getting in. It would not stop you from getting in. But they would want assurances from your office and special letters certifying that you're not there on office business, that you will not be reporting, or they want to hold this. But it's just easier not to do that and to just be a tourist. None of you are doing business for your companies there. That's not the same thing, for example, as if your company has offices there and they want you to go visit it and say hello. That's perfectly fine. And in fact, we're expecting that you will be part of everything that we do, cultural events and business events. But if you need to go and visit your business for a half day, and for example, for some of you, the company is paying for you to go there, they expect you to show up and be entertained, if you will, by the company for a morning, an afternoon, a lunch, a dinner, or something. Make the arrangements. Just let us know, and let your group know, so that we're not missing you. We don't think you've fallen asleep on your bed. That's just fine. We expect you to do what you need to do, just like, when you're in class, we expect you to do what you need to do. You get a telephone call, you have to run it. It's really no different in China when you're dealing with your company.
If we use our records address, how long does that remain active after we graduate?
I think it's active forever for alumni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're able to keep. I mean, I've been retired 7 years. They haven't taken mine away. No one's ever said anything about it. About 2 years after I retired, I got a note saying, "Do you really need this?" And I said, "Yes, not only do I need it, I need for you to increase the bandwidth that I have." Because I'm still teaching. And they wrote back to say, "Oh, okay, no problem." It's a big operation. What's the visa fee for non-US? For non-US, it's $30 for a single visit and $45 if you need a double. You need a double only if you're leaving from mainland China and then coming back to mainland China. So, for example, if you were going to Beijing and then going to Hong Kong and then coming home, that's just a single visa. You don't need a visa to get into Hong Kong. They will give it to you for 30 days. Your visas, your single visas for China are actually going to be valid for either 60 or 90 days. So don't be worrying about if you were off by a day or two. If you told them you were leaving on the 10th and it turns out you're leaving on the 11th, don't get nervous. No one's going to check you on the way out. They don't worry about that. They just generally want to know.
How many of you are staying on after the trip and doing some extra?
Nice. Enjoy that. Great. And there are some of you I know that are leaving early and doing stuff on the other end of things, which is also very nice. Mixing up groups. This is a chance to break out of groups. We load on the buses by groups. but every day I'll announce which groups are on which bus. And I keep trying to mix the groups up so that maybe you'll sit next to somebody that you haven't talked to all year. One of the main reasons that we don't want you to bring spouses, partners, friends, children, business associates, whatever, is that we're really hoping that you are going to bond with other people in the class and with your, even more so, with your groups. This is a chance to learn how interesting all of you are. Farrokh and I change buses, we change the guides on the buses. We really try and mix everything up every single day. So, so that's something I wanted to talk about. We do it purposely. We talked about time captains and assistants. We will actually finalize that on our first morning in Beijing. We'll be meeting in one of the ballrooms of the hotel. We'll actually have a business visit that morning, and that's actually a new add-in. You know, normally we didn't have a business visit, but you know, I thought it'd be a nice change to have someone come in from the United States consulate, the commercial division, sort of give you an overview of what it is to do business in China from an American standpoint. So we're going to have our first get-together, and you'll meet Teresa if you haven't met her before, and get some basic things settled up. And then we have a program, and then you can go upstairs, get changed for our visit to Tiananmen Square and Forbidden City. Let's talk about certain words that we don't say in public. One of them is Tiananmen Square. We don't say that in public, particularly when we're anywhere near Tiananmen Square. And let me explain why. The Tiananmen Square episode happened in early June, 1991. It'll be 21 years. Last year, 1989? June 4th. Okay. We are, well, we won't be in Beijing on June 4th. We often are in Beijing on June 4th. And we have on occasion been in Tiananmen Square on June 4th. Well, the Chinese government is especially wary around that time of anything that might be happening, people unfurling banners, doing whatever they are. So we look just like regular tourists coming through. You'll still have to put your stuff through a scan. You do that even in the subway. It's very regular handbags, so you pick them up. We don't say it because there's a lot of undercover police officers always around. There is no problem in our ballrooms, in our classrooms, anything talking about Tiananmen Square. But we don't do it in Tiananmen Square because otherwise people begin to worry. They don't necessarily understand English. They don't know what you're saying about Tiananmen Square. The other thing we don't ever mention is the group that China has designated as a cult group, and that's the Falun Gong. We don't talk about it. You're welcome to go and research it. It's a pretty benign group. But the reality of why China does not wish to have this group has to do not with its tenets, not with its beliefs, but with the fact that so many, many, many people have adopted it. China is afraid of anything that millions of people do. From a business standpoint, for example, they have Amway. Amway, you know, the whole process of going up with people connected, you will not see anything of Tupperware. Why do they have Amway but they wouldn't have Tupperware? Because Amway is done me to you. It's two people connecting. Oh yes, I'm your representative. One-on-one, China doesn't have any issues. Tupperware, we're already talking parties. 20 people, 30 people. Whenever 30 people meet together under the potential auspices of a Tupperware party, who knows what they're really doing? And so Tupperware has never really been granted access to China. That's what the Falun Gong is about. There are millions of people who have adopted this, they like this. It's in a sense, in their mind, secretive. That's really its failing. That so many people adopted it, became so successful that the government doesn't want competition.
What happened is that 4 or 5 years ago, Falun Gong, by the way, it's a quasi-Buddhist sort of thing. 4 or 5 years ago, 6 or 7, I don't know, Falun Gong organized somehow 20,000 of them to be there in Tiananmen Square at a certain time. And the party did not know that it was going to happen, and it happened. So 20,000 people show up, they had no clue. And so after that, they've been just terrified of these guys. So that's something we don't want to mention.
So that's something we don't mention. You know, we talked about the business cards, but you and I didn't exchange them. Do you have your business card to exchange?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean,
There'll be another
we'll
session
talk about
with,
this, but we really want you to know this is exactly how it happens. This is how it happens all the time. And
another session with Robert Pritchard, right?
nice, nice. And so we showed you how to do this. Clark is, Farrokh is here. Now I'm taking the card and I'm going to look at this. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it for a good 5 to 10 seconds. I'm going to read it for a good 5 to 10 seconds, even if it's in Korean. You do not understand. You're going to take it and you're going to read it, and you're going to say thank you very much. And then you take it in your hand and you hold it. You don't take it in your hand and slip it into your pocket. You hold it, that's insulting. You're going to hold it because it's important. You just hold it in your hand. Meanwhile, I've even seen where it sometimes happens where we exchange 2 at once.
And you're supposed to look in the middle and press, right? So when you read it, you go.
He has such a big ego.
When I get bored, I just read my own card.
Remember also that when you hand a card, you hand it in a way that they can read it. You don't hand it so that you're reading it, you're handing it so that they're reading it. And you can do the exchange together.
Okay, this is not for the novices, so this is complicated. Don't try this. The thing is, while I'm on this subject and I'm serious here, folks, this trip wouldn't have happened without Lewis. Small things like this, that insurance thing, you guys. Now, Lewis, as you might know, was the dean of the undergraduate program at Rutgers. So he has this huge guanxi thing. You know guanxi, right? Yeah. And so that's how he gets these things done. Because for me, for us to get just insurance from New Brunswick, for you guys, would have been 3 months of paperwork and hassle. And so all this navigation, even with Teresa, all these fine details, it's basically been Lou and Teresa who put this together. So
what he's explaining to you is when it goes wrong, you know who to blame. You've got the exchange of cards, you're reading them, you're holding on to them for a while, looking at them, you're not putting them immediately in your pocket.
Just a very quick story. Many of our students tell us these horror stories of how they got this whole deal. They worked for 2 years on this whole contract, and then the big CEO was supposed to come down from New Jersey to kind of sign the contract. The big guy, woman, whatever, comes, sits down, and then he tosses his cards up. Okay, yeah, boop, 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 boop. And then they give him the card or her the card, and he goes, oh yeah, boop, puts it in the back pocket, and they go with it. Yeah. And sometimes the deal falls through. These guys say, well, this guy's off the boat.
Etiquette, international etiquette is very serious. It's very serious. And no matter what you do, you're going to make mistakes along the way. But I must tell you, the Chinese are very forgiving. They're very generous. And all you have to do is show some measure that you're trying, and they will understand even when you mess with it. I mean, when you're sitting down at a table, the way that the teapot, where the pot is supposed to be pointing or not pointing, this is a part of etiquette. We really don't know this stuff. Where does the guest of honor sit? It's not in the same place where the guest of honor would sit at an American table. We would put the guest of honor at the head of the table. No. That's where the host sits in the Chinese, and the honored guest sits just to the right of the host. These are things that you would learn over time, but know that just learning a couple of these things will endear you.
Just take gifts with 2 hands always, and if someone gives you a gift, don't open it in front of them.
Gifts and presentations. I was here yesterday and I picked up whole bunches of gifts. We actually buy things made in the United States to bring back to China. It's not easy to find stuff that's made in the United States. That's nice to bring. But we have Emba ties, we have Emba scarves, we have staplers, and we have I have a whole bunch of hats and scarves that I have now packed, and I bring them with me. I also bring red bags. I bring red paper. Red is the good color. White is a color of death. So we try not to bring white bags. I bring ribbon. I bring all that stuff with me, and on each business visit, I'll have a sack with 3 or 4 or 5 gifts in it along with bags. Because we get there, we never really know how many people we're going to have to give gifts to. There have been places where it's only one person, and there have been places where we think it's only one person and 6 different people end up giving. We want to have something for each of them. And we will ask each of you, not each of you, we won't have 65 different gifts, but there may be as many as 20 to 25 different gift giving. And we'll ask each of you, or many of you, to do the gift giving. We don't do that. I bring them, but one of you will be asked to do it each time. And let me just tell you how this goes. Let me give you an example of how it goes. Farrokh was our best speaker. What I'm going to do is come up towards the end, and when it's getting close to our time, sometimes the speakers don't know it's getting close to our time. So the speaker may come up and just stand up and stand at the side of the room with the bag in hand. That's a signal to them that they know that it's time to start closing things up on questions. And then as they finish, they'll say, "Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being with you." And the person comes forward, and you can say, "Hello, I'm Lewis Farrokh. I'm representing the class of 2013 from the MBIS from Rutgers. I'd like to thank you very much for giving us this wonderful presentation." And you don't merely say that. You want them to know that you've been carefully listening. And so you pick up some point of what they were talking about. And so I would say, I was particularly impressed to see your description of the bathrooms at the Great Wall. And it will inform my behavior when I'm there. So thank you very, very much. This is a small gift from us, and it's going to be a bag with handles, and we both handle the bags. And he's going to take it with 2 hands. He's going to take it, and he's then going to say, it's been a response. It's been very nice to be with you. I don't often speak to a group as large as this, but you've been very attentive, and your questions have been excellent. And if you have other questions you'd like to ask of me, please don't hesitate to come up, and I'll stay for a few minutes afterwards. And that's it. So there will be a back and forth. It's not just a presentation. You run back, you stay and wait for me to speak, and then you go and sit down. And you'll see it happen. You'll get more in tune with it. It's really a nice process.
It's a pick and choose. If you see a session that you really want to kind of get to know the speaker, then let Lou or me know.
Absolutely. If there's a connection there for you, if this is in your industry, if this is someone that you think you may be able to do business with, don't hesitate to do that. On top of that, even if you're not the one chosen to do the gift, if you think this is someone that might be a connector for you, build a little guanji in there. There's no reason not to do that. To exchange cards, at some later point to send a note saying thank you personally, to explain what you do. You start slow, you build up. You know how to do that kind of business. Sorry.
On the business card. On the business card.
Yes, absolutely. But you wouldn't.
Not right away, but.
I mean, you could carry them as business card holder, but you wouldn't present the business card holder. You just take it. Yes. And in fact, you'll find lots of business card holders in the nice enameled ones. Red and white, yes.
Yeah. What about white and clothing?
White and clothing is no problem at all. No problem at all.
Just guys, don't wear green caps like John Deere caps. Green is a bad signal. If somebody presents you with a green cap in China, you know what that means, right?
No. Except Clarice.
Somebody gives you, like in the mail, if you're in China as an expat and an envelope shows up with a green cap, that means, uh-oh, it means that the missus is being naughty. Or the mister, the husband. So there's
The other person's cheating.
There are also a couple of things. We never give umbrellas in China. We never give any gifts that relate to time. Not calendars, not watches, things like that. There are an indication that time is limited, and so there are omens of death. You'll also see that certain numbers, 4 is a very unlucky number in China. I'm not into superstitions. I think it's just so bizarre in some ways. But when you get into the hotels, you'll notice that there's no floors 4 or 14, as though not putting them on the elevator makes them not number 4 or 14. And in deference to Western mores, there's no 13 either. So there's no 4, 13, or 14, 24, 34, 44. And you will see that there's no room for 44 either. What you will be surprised to see, and every year someone gets it, is room 666. Please, they're just room numbers.
Just a quick comment here. So you can choose the digits on your phone number there on your cell. And so there are lots of 8s. So this is what the
Eight's very lucky.
women who are dating guys tell us, that if they see a number with lots of 8s, that big spender, because those are lucky and expensive. If the guy's got all 4s, then cheap guy. No. So a hotel room for this Peninsula Hotel, the number is 888888.
Exactly. Gifts for some business cards, getting around on your own taxis with meters, you get the concierge to do it. Let's talk about massage. I'll talk about anything. Massage. First of all, if you have never had a foot massage, you are really in for a treat. In fact, right next door to the Peninsula Hotel happens to be our favorite foot massage place. It's not very expensive. It's for about an hour. It's one flight up. We'll send you to it. It's right next door. It's legitimate, and it's so amazing. They'll serve tea. You can go as a group. They'll have these wonderful foot massages, 10, 15 as a group, and different chairs. Delightful. There is also body massage. Body massage is given legitimately by the hotel. And it is also given at many standard-looking places. Now, let me tell you something that I often say about the Chinese. The Chinese do lots of sex, and they don't talk much about it. Americans talk a lot and don't do much about it. And so, especially for the guys, you certainly, it's come into common parlance now. When I started talking about it 10 years ago, people had no idea what I'm talking about. You want a happy ending? You'll get a happy ending. If you don't want a happy ending, you don't have to have a happy ending. Whatever you want is what you'll get, and trust me, if you have a happy ending, there's no engagement ring involved. As soon as you leave, you've disappeared from the face of the earth as far as they're concerned. You are a piece of meat who came in for something, and a piece of meat who leaves. So don't build this up into anything more than it actually is. The other thing, especially for the guys, the women tend to get this okay. I'm going to do one on you. Okay? On one foot, particularly on the street walking, on the street where people walk, it's the one foot walking street. For the guys, there's going to be a lot of young women who walk up to you, attractive women, sometimes 2 or 3. And what they're going to do, they're going to walk right up to the guys, and they're going to face me like this. They're going to walk up to them and say hi. They're going to get real close to you, and then they're going to start fiddling with your belt, the top of your pants here. Let me assure you, they're not fiddling with your belt. You're so concerned with what they're doing with your belt, they're pickpocketing you. They are pickpocketing you. So just, a pretty girl walks up to you. She sees money. She doesn't see, a love life here. Just back off, say, no, not interested, whatever. Don't do people on the street. There will be girls that there will be girls that walk up to you that want to take you for a tea service, tea ceremony. Do not go. Do not go. They'll take you to some place. It's really a tea shop. They order the tea that costs $67.
Or even more,
$200-300.
Yeah.
It's all a scam. They're, we used to see it at bars where there were bar girls who used to buy, they'd have a drink with you, and they were getting water, but they were charging you for their, it's a scam. More scams. There'll be people who walk up to you and say, "Oh, I'm an artist. Can I bring you to see my gallery of art? I'm a struggling student and I have my art." They didn't do any of this art. You're going to see it in Tiananmen Square, in the Forbidden City. There are lots and lots of shops that people will tell you it's their art and that it's not. It doesn't mean that it isn't lovely, but don't imagine that it's theirs, and don't fall for that they're going to get super high prices. In the markets in Shanghai and in Beijing, you'll find lots of stores that are selling the same kinds of things, hangings of horses or of fish or koi, for much, much less prices. You can buy that same kind of thing. So don't fall for that.
And there's another recent one, which is, a couple of women will walk beside you and ask if they can practice their English, and maybe go and talk. don't fall for that one either. And from what I understand, that's the same thing as coffee, tea, and expensive
Yeah.
drinks.
On the other hand, I have also been approached by people who wanted to know if I spoke English, to practice their English. And I've said, sure, I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes. And I've sat down on a bench right there. Just sit down on a bench and say, you want to practice English? Let's talk for 5 or 10 minutes if you have the time and you'd like to do it. That's as far as I go. I don't go to any coffee shops. I don't go anywhere with them. I only do it one-on-one. And sometimes they really are trying to practice. You know, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. There really are people who are trying to practice English and want to hear, especially American English. They may be hearing English, Great Britain English, and so they might want to hear things differently. They might want to just practice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very nice. So don't be totally cynical about this. We're trying to tell you sort of a crash course in being careful.
Going back to the wallets, folks, there's a safe deposit box in your hotel room. So leave your passport there.
Leave your passport. You do not need to carry that
Don't
with
carry
you.
that around with you.
If you got into China, you're safe. You don't need to have ID with you all the time. There may be some business visits that we have that might require passports. If we get into Federal Express or anything at the airport, sometimes they need for you to bring your passports. Again, it's a security issue for them. They take them, they do whatever, they give them right back to you on your way out. That's how they check. So we'll let you know about that way ahead of time. Immunizations. It's really up to you. If you want to see your doctor, take the advice of your doctor on whether you need immunizations or not. Some of you wrote to ask about the country that you visited lately. Most of that question, as far as I can tell, is about making sure you're not coming from any countries that have dengue fever, cholera, any things that might require those kinds of immunizations. They don't care that you went to Switzerland. They might want to know that you've gone to places that have rampant diseases that you might bring into the country. We are not visiting any rural areas. We're not visiting any areas that you could get any animal-type diseases.
All the restaurants are really good. In fact, it's not all Chinese. There's a European restaurant, there's an Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
But if you eat from
We
the
mix it
street-
up. You won't be eating Chinese every single day.
Yeah.
And of course, every breakfast you can have whatever you like.
Some of you will try those that Scorpion Alley stuff, the fried scorpions and stuff. So just be careful. And we've all tried those, but just that could be a little funky on the stomach. So.
Anybody who's gotten sick from eating the deep-fried scorpions or the deep-fried caterpillars or the deep-fried whatever has never gotten sick from the scorpions or the caterpillars. They've gotten sick from the rancid oil. That's really the more important part, and that could happen in any country in the world. I've got to tell you, deep-fried scorpion tastes just like deep-fried caterpillar. It tastes just like deep-fried French-fried potatoes. Deep-fried is deep-fried. It's crunchy. With salt. What can I tell you? Health issues. If you take medications, and many of you do, I do, bring them in the original containers. Bring them in the original containers. Don't just pack them up into a separate thing and say they don't necessarily. Bring them in the named containers with your name on it. There's no question about what you have. Over the counters, bring whatever works for you. Farrokh was saying allergies. If you take Benadryl or Claritin, make sure you bring that stuff with you. I don't know if you can buy it so easily. Even things, if you regularly take aspirin, like baby aspirin for some reason requires a prescription in China. It's one of those stranger things. You can get Viagra over the counter, but aspirin you need a prescription for. Exactly. DVT, seat exercise, emergency information. We have taken that emergency information from you. We will be leaving. Teresa has a copy of it, and Kathleen will have copies of this as well. If anything of an emergent nature happens, either way, there was something there that we need to tell people here, or if something happens here that we need to tell you about if we don't reach you any other way, we'll be able to do it. On every bus, we have 2 buses. We'll have about 30 to 35 on each bus. That accommodates 45 people. You're not going to be crammed in there. They're big, beautiful, air-conditioned buses, often Mercedes-Benz. We have a local guide on every bus. And these local guides are people who really are available to you 24 hours a day. If you get into a jam somewhere and with a bill or trying to get home and you don't know how to do it and you're frightened or nervous, whatever it is, you can always dial up one of our guides. They will be able to explain it. You can hand the telephone to the person that you're dealing with. They'll be able to explain, translate anything that's going on. So we have one guide on every bus. They're available to you. Additionally, Farrokh and I are on the buses. Teresa is on the bus. When we were in Shanghai, there's an overall program. You'll meet Billy Liu, who's been with us for many years. Most of our guides have been with us for many years also.
Tell them quickly about Teresa. Teresa is this Czech woman who works for this British company based in Prague, running programs for mainly American universities. So it's truly a global operation. And also phone cards. If you need to call home, you can buy phone cards. Never
pay face value. Never. It may be 100 yuan. For a 100 yuan card, you can usually pay 35. It's all about negotiation. So let's talk about negotiation. What things you're going to buy. In China, some of you don't like to negotiate. You're going to have to force yourself. I have to force myself. I don't like to negotiate. But the prices will always start at something insane. Now, in department stores and fancy stores, there is no bargaining. The prices are the prices. But in the markets, on the streets, anything is negotiable. And the prices they start with are insane. A tie, which ultimately costs 10 renminbi, $1.50, a nice fake silk tie. But they're nice. You use them for what they are. They'll always tell you it's silk. It's never silk. Don't fret about it. You're not going to get silk for $1. Be smart about this. When they're selling you jade bracelets, 5 for $5, the equivalent, they're not jade. Don't be disappointed when it turns out, however hard and nice and lovely they are, that they're just a good plastic. Walk in knowing that. The one place that we will take you to, that you will get real stuff, is at Ling Ling's Pearl Market. In the Pearl Market, we'll take you to a place. We do not get any kickbacks from it. That's a standard thing in China. The tour guides take you to a place and they're getting a kickback on it. We do not get a kickback on it. Yes, we know Ling Ling very well. Why do we take you there? Because Ling Ling understands us. She understands that you have extremely limited amount of time, and she does her prices the American way. She will tell you what the price is, and there isn't any bargaining about it. You get the first price she tells you is the one that you can say either yes or no to, and then it's done. Because you can buy whatever you want then in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You can look at stuff and get some idea, instead of wasting 15 minutes going back and forth to get the same price.
Her quality is very, very good. I know her since
Yeah.
93, by the way.
We've never had any issues with her, and in fact, her sister runs another shop under the same name, Ling Ling, across from our hotel on Nanjing Road. So if there's something you forget and something you want, you can still get more stuff there. So that's a good thing to buy. Think of anybody that you want pearls for. We're generally talking white or pink pearls, different colors of off-white pearls. They have fresh water, they have the saltwater pearls, they're different prices. But I can assure you that you will never find prices like this anywhere else. Do not look for black pearls, exotic pearls. They cost $100 a pearl. Yeah.
Having said that, some of the handlers who do know about these pearls actually said that is still a deal. So,
if you really do know black pearls, you'll get something of a bargain, but their price is so much higher than the white ones. I don't know what the price was last year. I think for a nice set of average size, good pearls with matching earrings, and they almost always will sell the matching earrings in the same size, and you can get them either gradated so that they're smaller here and larger there, or all the same size. You will not pay more than $50. $35 to $50. So when you start thinking about Christmas gifts or holiday gifts for people, this is really a lovely gift.
The freshwater pearls.
For kids, 6, 8, 10 years old, that first set of pearls that they'll wear on that's very special, fancy occasion. You can get them something nice. What else is for?
What you can bring back?
Yes, when you bring more than $800 worth of goods back per person, there's a 10% tax on it. You have to declare over $800. I don't think too many of you will be buying more than $800 worth of stuff. But if you do now, I have to tell you, I bought a ring. You have done it on occasion?
Yes. J.C. Jones gloves.
Oh yes, that's right. And did they declare your amount? Some of them did, some of them didn't. I have to tell you, the only time I ever bought something back that was more than $800 was a ring that I had bought in Brazil for $910. And I declared it, you know me. So I declared it as $910, and the guy looked at me and he said, can I see the ring? And I said yes, and I opened the ring up and he says, and you really paid $910? Yeah, it was a nice ring. It was really very nice. No, he thought it was a good deal. He liked it. And he said, thank you for being honest. And he just sent me on my way. I didn't end up paying 10. It's only 10%. So it's 10% on the overage. So I would have paid $11. For $11, I don't need to have a record somewhere in the Customs Bureau. That I just think about those things.
If one of us want to buy black pearls, that could end up being more than
Yeah, it could. There's also ways of having them shipped.
Or just wearing them, right?
Yes. Talk to Farrokh. Don't talk to me. Not talk to me. There we go.
Farrokh, this is being recorded.
Guys, you have all these Rolexes in your bag. So when you say, okay, I got pearls, and then he opens the bag, then you got the 25 Rolexes.
Yeah, keep things separate, different bags. If you're doing. In fact, let's talk about the 25 Rolexes.
Can we take a break?
No, of course they're not. Of course. and let's Farrokh has some connections to Yang Yang still or no?
She's out of, yeah, she actually got jailed. Now she's back out.
Listen, let's understand certain things. There's this sort of low-level crime that people get jailed for. You'll see when we get to Tiananmen Square that there are people trying to sell every imaginable, kites and hats and whatever. And when they get a little too annoying, there's a van with police that come and surround them, and they escort them onto the van. So you're all of a sudden worried about they're being arrested. All they were trying to do was sell a little something. Trust me, the van pulls all the way to the end of Tiananmen Square, over to the far corner. The doors open up and the people get out. They're trying to slow it down a little bit.
They also pay the police.
Yeah, there's an exchange that happens. Let's talk about the knockoff goods, how much you can bring back and what's to bring back. Farrokh has this good connection. Those watches run $20 to $25. They're not your $5 watches that you can buy on the street. They will generally last a little longer. They're higher quality. How many of this stuff are you actually allowed to bring back? Well, believe it or not, the U.S. Customs Service, the United States government, knows about this market, about this off-market, and they understand that people like to buy them as touristy joke gifts, things like that. You want to get some polo shirts, you want to get some, whatever is a knockoff, whatever. How many can you bring back? 3 or 4 is the maximum of any one item. And they actually write in their rules that people who bring less than 3 or 4 items are allowed to bring it back. What they're interested in making sure doesn't happen is that people are doing it commercially. They don't want you bringing back 15 of an item. So 3 or 4 of just about anything is going to be okay.
And you can mix and match. Somebody may have no watches, so they can carry your pearls for you.
Exactly. Michael?
I think stay away from DVDs. I know they crack
Yes, stay away from DVDs. What do you need DVDs from China for? You can buy DVDs here just the same. Don't do DVDs, and definitely don't do golf clubs. You'll see golf clubs everywhere. It's one of those things, you're really allowed to bring back 3 or 4 golf clubs, but it's so in your face because they don't fit into anybody's luggage that the customs feel obligated to take them.
In the way of custom clothing, is it better to ship or carry?
Say it again?
In the way of custom clothing, you have a 6'6".
Let's come back from break with custom clothing. We'll talk about custom clothing. But first we come back, we'll take a break. We're back in 2011.
Oh, you know what?
We're going to take up Jen's question in a second about bespoke clothing, handmade clothing. Before we do that, I want to talk about telephones, calling home. We learned somewhat, I don't know who was who spoke to Farrokh, but for example, they discovered that Verizon or all these different systems have a special program that you can get for a month or 2 months, and just for that short period of time, that allows you, without getting a SIM card, without getting any special treatment, for a flat rate or for a very low per minute charge, to call from China. So look into that. It's doable.
You take it to China, they will constantly get data,
Good
So you
point.
have to share
and you will
that.
get charged up to wazoo. So on the settings, there's a thing that you can go to and turn off your data roaming. Because when I was in India, even if you change SIM cards or whatever, it'll
The
still
data still is coming in,
Yeah.
updating every 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So while you haven't made any calls at all, you get home to find out that you've got a $1,400 bill.
No, I mean, but if you get a local SIM, what happens is, let's say you get a $50
Right.
prepaid, you'll go through it in a day. Because your iPhone will continue to work like it.
So the special note on iPhone, data roaming, turn it off. On the regular phones, go through your company.
Also with the iPhones, if you pre-buy your data ahead of time international, you can save a lot.
Okay.
How do you do that?
Any smartphone. Oh,
Communicate among yourselves on telephones.
You guys know much about it.
Yeah, as you know, I don't even have a cell phone. I have no idea what to do with it.
You make calls?
Actually, I must say, all these years I've sort of been lying to you. I do actually have one.
And you put it in your suitcase?
How big is it? Well,
This is it. I can open it up, and it comes on, and I can dial a number. And then I hit the green thing. That's as much as I know about it. If you would call this number, which I don't give out, and leave me a message, it goes into a toilet bowl somewhere. I have no idea where to call back. More often than not, when it rings, I don't even realize it's mine. So I've never heard it before. So there it is. For emergencies, I can call that. The second question that Jen brought up is handmade clothing. Everyone's heard about it. Well, it's very interesting in China. China was always the place that people got tailor-made clothes, and they have great tailors, and it's a wonderful thing to do. The amazing part is that they are so grateful for your business now because Chinese want to buy off the rack. It's really an amazing thing. The Chinese no longer want handmade clothing. They want the convenience of just buying off the rack like we have had for so many years. The prices for handmade clothing are about 25%, maybe even 35% less than you can get for off-the-rack clothing here. It's dramatically less expensive than handmade clothing, but most people can't afford handmade clothing here. The better place to buy it is not in Beijing, it is in Shanghai. Why is that? Because we're only in Beijing for 3 days, and we are in Shanghai for 6.5 days. Stuff takes time to be made. Both Teresa and our local guides will have connections for you to do that. In the hotel that we stay in Shanghai, in the Howard Johnson's, there's a nice men's shop that does make handmade shirts. Men's handmade shirts in hundreds of fabrics. You probably remember from the video that last year's class produced, the fellow who bought 23 shirts, the countdown of the shirts. We bought them all there. They were inexpensive. The price, I got 6 of them. It's the only time I've ever in my life bought handmade shirts. The 6 shirts cost $93. Handmade shirts, they wore wonderfully. They're just great. But be very careful. Everything is not what it seems. So despite the fact that what they're telling you, filter it through. When they tell you that it's 100% Egyptian cotton, remember that it's an 80-20. It has some cotton in it, it's polyester. It's a very good shirt, it'll be very nice, but I've got to tell you, the wonderful thing, I don't generally wear all cotton. I don't take my shirts to the laundry, I wash them. So when I stick these in the washing machine, they come out with the French cuffs. They're gorgeous. I mean, they don't need to be ironed. So remember, there's some nice stuff about shirts that aren't so great. And yes, right in the hotel, I'll point it out to you. And they will also now make man-tailored shirts for women. They just started doing that last year because some of our, I suggested to the women, why not? It needs some adjustments, but they did it and they were very happy with it. You get to pick the fabric, you get to pick the collar, you get to pick whether you want 3 buttons, 2 buttons, whether you want standard, whether you want French cuffs. They'll do it all. There's no different price. There's no price for monogramming. It's really very, very simple. So for shirts, that's easy. For suits, for fancier clothes, for leather items, the guides will help you.
I should say I got a cashmere jacket made. Not bad, I think 60, 65, maybe $80. Yeah. So it's really good quality cashmere jacket for guys.
Mm-hmm. It's actually aardvark, but it looks
Guys do it on the first day, and the thing is, you may have to go back for a couple of trials,
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
make sure that they have the buttons right and everything.
Exactly. And what often happens for the women, especially when they're doing the fittings, they'll take the first measurements. In fact, they may even come to your hotel room, and there'll be 12 people in a room all getting fitted. They take care of it. They'll be back the next day with most things done, and they'll be back the third day usually with everything done. Every once in a while, it needs something additional. They'll really try their very best to get it to you, and they'll do not assume that time is an issue. When we finish up our day at 10 o'clock at night, I can assure you they'll be happy to meet you at 10:30 and work till midnight. When it's a sale, time is of no consequence. They'll do it on your time.
Tailors mailing the stuff. Talk to the second year class.
Yeah.
They're talking about all this. Just don't reinvent the wheel.
Like the guy that bought 20
Yeah, I think he's not with us anymore. So.
They have like different styles and stuff that you can pick from, or you have
Oh,
to
sure.
send
In
it
fact,
to
if there's something
what
that you want, bring pictures with you. Bring something out of the style magazines. Absolutely. They'll match it. Sorry? Yes, gowns, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, a couple of gowns, too. Yes, gowns. In fact, some of the women last year or the year before bought gowns, sort of like the Vietnamese style with the slit that comes all the way up the side to here with matching pants underneath. They were just gorgeous. And, whatever you can think of, they can do. Got a sewing machine and scissors, they've got it. Yes. And they often will take credit card, no question about it. But remember, you're always negotiating, you're always getting a price, and you can double team them. I'll tell you a story. One of my colleagues that used to travel to China went there once with his nephew. And he walked into a store, and he didn't walk in. The nephew walked in first. And the nephew gets the very best possible price he can do. It's gotten for a suit down from 1,000 to 650. And he's finished with him. He's not going to buy. He's disgusted with the price. The price is a good price, by the way. He's disgusted with the price. He's put on a good show. He's walking out of the door, and the faculty member, the uncle, guy doesn't know, is standing outside looking at stuff, just thinking about it. And the guy opens the door, and he says to him in English, says, "Can you imagine? He wants $650 for a suit. Crazy, crazy." And so at that point, the uncle walks in and says, "Well, I was looking for a suit, but $650 is too much. The starting point is now $650, not $1,000. All right, you can play back and forth, but realize they're playing back and forth with you as well. As you were in the silk market, in the place where you can buy all the knockoff stuff, you may go from place to place and be getting the price down to something, but it's not low enough for you. I can assure you that that person, in the midst of dealing with you, is telling everyone else around them what the lowest price is that they've gone. Right? So they're teaming up on you as well. Don't feel bad about teaming up on them. The other thing to remember, and we'll give you some standard prices to know where you're supposed to get to. If you start too high and you negotiate up too much, you're going to get they start $400 for a tie. What do you start with? 2, 3, and they come down and say, well, 200, 4. They come down to 100. You can say 4 again. You're allowed to say the same number again. It's okay. And if by some mistake you go up higher than 10 ultimately when you get to 14, you're allowed to not buy it. You never actually have to buy it until you buy it. So if you get to 14 and you know it should be 10, you just say no, 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 no. And you start walking away. They'll call after you and say, okay, at 10. Or 11. They'll come to 11 and say, no, 10 is the highest I can go. Eventually it's all a game. And it's intended to be lighthearted. Yes, you'll negotiate. Oh, you're killing me. Oh, my children won't eat. I can make up a million lines. Final. Machines will be going back. Play along with it. Enjoy doing it. Don't worry about it. Remember, don't get yourself nuts over 10 renminbi. Remember, you're talking $1. $1. There's something that you want. If there's something you want, when you see it, get it. You will not be back there. You will not be back there. Even if you got back there, you'd never find them again. They're like warrens in these places. You'll never get buy it, figure it out, get down to as low as you think is reasonable. They'll make a little bit more money. You will still have gotten a bargain, and you'll have a story to tell about how hard you negotiated. Eventually, among your groups, you'll figure out who in your group, and there'll be 5 or 6 of you, who are killers. Killers! Go shopping with killers. After they get their good price, you say, I'll take 2 of those too. Right? That's how I buy. And of course, they're going to get a better deal for volume. How many pieces? They're going to say, how many you want? How many? Play with it. I want 5. I want 5. And you say, I want 5. You'll enjoy playing it. It's another world.
Let's give them some prices. So ties, 10 yuan to 20 yuan. Kind of some of the better ones are 10 to 20 yuan for ties. Watches, you have to be careful. You can see the same watch and the different qualities in watches. So you kind of need to know what you're
My
doing.
favorite watch, and it's just happened in the last couple of years, Chinese have difficulty saying the letter R. And so you'll have a lot of people who'd be coming up to the buses and trying to sell you Rolex watches, whatever. And so you already know you're going to be translating it back to Rolex. What was so hilarious, and I hope all of you will get one along the way, a company has gotten so smart in China. They are actually now selling Lolex watches, L-O-L-E-X, and it says on it Lolex. It's hilarious and it's fun, and you can bring those as gifts. Yeah, and when you give that, everybody knows it's a joke, it's fun, there is Lolex watches. Somebody got the clever idea to do that. What else do these? We told them prices on pearls. What else do they buy?
Yeah, what's the price on watches?
Anywhere from 20 to 25 for the really good ones. For the junky ones that might explode on your hand in about 3 hours, you get them for $5, $4.
What is the first one? $25, but what does that come to?
$25, You were getting some nice ones for 140 yuan, 120 yuan.
Those are the automatic ones. The battery ones are much cheaper, 40, 50.
Yeah.
Our shirts, the knit shirts, the polos and stuff. Qualities kind of, after a few washes, they kind of...
It depends.
Yeah,
it really depends. Remember in class I was talking about the front market, the back market, December 17th goods? You never actually know what you're getting. Presume that everything is a knockoff. But it happens sometimes that what you're buying is a knockoff may actually be real. And it may be real because it either went out the back door, or it was December 17th goods that they're still holding on to. Goods that were intended to be shipped to the United States but don't make the Christmas deadline. And that's actually the phrase is called December 17 goods. But you could get December 17 goods in June. They may not have had such a good turnover. So you never quite know what you're going. Presume you're buying a knockoff, and you'll be perfectly fine. I remember the textile factory we went to. We went to a textile factory at some point, and it was just unbelievable. We watched them cutting. They were cutting women's winter coats, light winter coats that were faux leopard skin kind of stuff that was black and yellow spots, and it had all gotten through. And they had a nice collar, and they had 2 huge racks of these. And the very last thing they were doing was sewing in the labels, which they were doing actually by hand, sewing in the labels. And one woman, and these are 2 racks that have come out the same factory with the exact same looking coats. One woman was sewing in the labels that said J.C. Penney, and the other one was putting in a much fancier label like Ferragamo or something. It was just a really outrageous name, and they were the exact same coats. So now, having said that, I have no idea whether those were ever intended to be sent to the States. For all I know, those were goods that were intended to be sent to the market. See, it's impossible to know any of this stuff unless you're really an expert. Trust me on this one, unless you're an absolute expert, and the Chinese are absolute experts on Gucci bags. Unless you know every welt and every bolt and buckle, they know every single one. They can tell in an instant whether it's real or it's not real. So if you're going to buy a fake, you know, that's fine. But if you think you're really buying a real one, you better be real good.
Lewis, when you mentioned the silk market, should you assume polyester?
Yes.
Well, please note, the silk market is just the name of the market.
Yeah.
Watches there.
It sells everything: toys, children's clothing. It'll be, in other words, it'll be cotton or polyester, but it will have a silky finish.
Silkish.
The silky market, yes.
And the guides, in the past, the guides would take us to all the weird kind of knockoff places and weird markets where they would get kickbacks. And so we stopped doing that because that was a waste of time. Then the guides really got upset because that's where the real money came from.
You don't make a lot of money.
Yeah. So what we do is now we just tell them to take us where we want to go, and then at the end of it, we give them a tip.
We give them a very nice tip.
So,
A very nice tip. Each one of the guides gets to. We also will collect something from you, something small, 2 or 3 yuan, or 5 yuan, 10 yuan, $1 or so per person per guide. It's not a lot of money. It's more the idea that something has come from you. But we do take care of them. And we do that to make sure they don't take us to any of these idiotic places that just waste time. We don't want to waste your time. The names of the hotels, we'll get that. Journaling. This is very important. Yeah, there is a something that you do need to hand in. If you have not ever journaled before, this is a great opportunity to start. It is a wonderful, wonderful skill. And all that we ask of you is that you bring along a book of some sort, something that you can write in, a diary, journaling, and mark down the things each day that impress you, the things you've seen. Yes, it's going to be tremendously helpful for the project that you're going to do for me, and we'll explain that in just a little bit. But I've got to tell you that once you're done with the trip and you look back in this book 15 years from now, every one of these days will come back to you like it was yesterday. The trip of a lifetime reenacts itself, resurrects itself when you read your own writing of what a wonderful time you had and who you did it with and where you went that night, and all the crazy stories that you'll have. What we are going to ask of you is that you hand in a project. We're not calling it a paper, we're not calling it a video, we're not calling it a whatever. I'm calling it just a project, something that includes 3 takeaways. 3 personal takeaways from each event that we do. 3 personal takeaways from the wall, 3 personal takeaways from Baidu, 3 personal takeaways from all of the different things we do. Some people, my engineers in the class, usually do it in bullets. A little boring. What can I tell you? If it were me, you know I'm the scientist there, I'd be doing it in bullets too. I don't mean to point fingers. Some of you are tremendously creative. What are some of the things I've gotten? I've gotten newspapers, creative magazines with articles and pictures and stuff. It just blows me away. I've gotten PowerPoint presentations. I've got scrapbooks. Whatever it is, a plain paper is going to be just fine too. But if you'd like to show something that you would really like to keep, we keep those books for 1 year. We're required under Rutgers rules to hold on to writings for which you receive a grade for 1 year. But before your graduation, we will give back any of those that you want. Maybe they're photo albums, maybe they do need to be writings, they can't just be pictures. They need to be 3 takeaways. And the takeaways can't be wiki takeaways, right? Anything you could find in a book, I'm not interested in. I can find it in a book too. I want your impressions. What did this mean to you?
It should be something from a website. So we don't want you to say the Great Wall is 2,000 miles long and it took so many years. We're not looking for that. We're looking for introspection. We're looking for something that you observe by actually being there, physically being there. So, and no matter how many times you read this, we will still get some of you saying the wall was 2,000 miles.
It's okay, Jen. We love you anyway. It's easy. I was going to pick on someone there. That's actually everything I got. Went through my whole list. Yeah. Questions, points, please.
What's this risk management?
Risk management, that's the paper, the very first paper you did.
Oh.
The informed consent. Risk management. That's the Rutgers name. Any more questions? When is what due?
the?
Oh, the project is do the week in residence, yes. What happens is I come in, I teach again during week in residence like I did for you. I come in the day before. I come in Monday at noon. So it's not due on the Sunday when you come in, but it's due the Monday at noon. And I collect all of those, and I actually start reading through them from Monday all the way through the class. I read through them the whole week. Why do I do that? It's because I don't want to schlep 70 papers to California with me. So I actually grade everything and finish it all, and you will have your grades for the course within that same week. I'm very fast on that. Now, let me also be clear. That deadline is not absolute. It's not absolute. I give you that deadline for your benefit. I can get it anytime before you graduate. I don't penalize anybody. I'll read it whenever you send it to me. But I've got to tell you, there were 3 people last week in residence who didn't hand their papers in. And let me tell you, they didn't hand their papers in. One of them I got yesterday. In the midst of finishing up all of the stuff that you're doing, in the midst of trying to graduate and all your work, the last thing you need is to be writing yet another project. And I've got to tell you, none of the 3 that came in any way compared to the ones that came in last fall. The ideas were not as fresh. The pictures were not as fresh. You'll have all summer to do it. You'll have all summer to do it. Also, one of the things that we will set up is we'll ask a group of 4 or 5 or 6 who have facility with video or audio, who have taken a bunch of pictures, to form a committee. And it'll be up to you to decide who that committee is, to produce yet another video, G-rated video, that we can show to the next class. I know that you loved that video last year. I know that some of you, I've watched it 4 times. I thought it was phenomenal. There were things I didn't see. That really was one of the, that may really have been the best video we've ever had. Others were very, very good and enjoyable. But there will be pieces often that are more enjoyable to you than to the class that comes after you, because there'll be in-jokes and fun stuff. So think about that as well. Some of you will do that, and others of you will do projects. But you need to do it. 3 takeaways from every event. Now, I know that you're hearing me say this, and I know you're understanding it. I will get 50 questions over the summer. Now, is it 3 takeaways from every event, or 3 takeaways overall? And I'll answer it every single time the same way, 3 takeaways from every event. And then on the day of that first week in residence, all the other ones will be like this thick with pictures and 10 pages or 12 pages or 20 pages or whatever. I've never gotten one longer than 20 pages, so don't make yourself the same. But then there's always the one that's 2 pages. And I look at it, and sure enough, it's 3 takeaways from the whole trip. What happens? I just give it back to you and tell you, okay, you still have a lot of work to do. This is very nice. This will cover your first morning there. Now you have another 9.5 days. So I don't take junk. It really has to be important. And in a sense, it's because I want it to be important for you, too. Okay, it's supposed to be a learning experience. And I want you to recognize what you have learned as well. It's something that needs to be transformed from an internal thing to an external thing, so that you can read it back and forth and see how much you learn on these trips. Please.
So that's for all the business items, the educational component, the movie,
Gift shop.
You mean the cultural and the business? Yes. You don't need to do you know, I don't need to know how great the club was that you went to over Pudong. But yeah, everything that's on our program, from the you know, so for example, yeah, I'd like to hear what you think of the Shanghai Acrobat Show. And I've got to tell you, I'm a very jaded traveler, I would not take you to something that I did not think you would not be blown away by. This is not a circus. This is, you know, you're not going to see elephants parading around, whatever. This is something phenomenal, phenomenal.
It's not what the acrobats were.
The acrobats.
I don't understand which aspect of it.
Yes. Well, some of the business visits are absolutely phenomenal also. You know, different people will be amazed by different parts of it. Particularly the ones that are in your industry, you may get more out of it than others would. What are some of the other cultural events? Great Wall. Great Wall. It's just, you know, you can't believe it until you see it, until you're on it.
And we're taking you to the highest part of the Great Wall. There are
Yeah.
many portions of the Great Wall you can visit. So the Moitanu part is the highest portion,
Yeah.
probably the most spectacular.
You know, so many years ago, people who went to the Great Wall, we used to leave an extra hour for people to climb up to the Great Wall. It would take almost an hour to get up there. When you finally got there, you had enough time to walk on the wall for 5 minutes and say, I was on the Great Wall, and then you'd walk on down. They've built new stuff. We actually have like a ski lift that will take you from the base all the way up to like one floor below the Great Wall, so that you'll actually have an hour to traverse the whole Great Wall and go to all these different places. It's really grand. And believe it or not, they have even arranged, they've put a ride, like a Disney ride, except it's way beyond anything Disney could come up with. There's a toboggan ride, individual toboggans off the Great Wall all the way down. And that's probably a good time for me to tell you that you are beholden to yourselves. It's not like America, where there'll be a billion signs that say, don't get too close to the cliff, you might fall off. In China, they presume that you have eyes and can see. There may not be a fence there. There won't be stuff. And it's the same thing even on this toboggan ride, you know, at where you're crossing over huge gorges that may go on 80 or 90 feet. It will be enclosed on the sides. You know, you're not somewhat enclosed. So you need to just be careful. They don't always fix the sidewalks. They don't always fix. You just need to watch where you're walking. Watch where you're going. We'll point out some special things.
The toboggan ride is interesting because it would not really be allowed here.
Yes.
So it's just this side of safe.
I'll tell you, for people who have fears of heights, it's really an outward bound experience. And I'm usually the last one down, and I take all the scaredy cats in front of me so that they know that I'm not going to run into them. After a while, every single person who's had that fear or been worried about it, by about the midway point, they're zooming down at 20 miles an hour, 25, they're just going full blast. They're really enjoying it. It is a wonderful experience. We have never had anyone who hasn't done the toboggan. So I expect that all of you will do it. They've all just, and they've talked about it. They've talked about it forever and ever. It's really a fun experience to do. So we really try and do it. No, he loves it. We had 10 people last year. We're getting ready to go. Where are they? They went back up and came down out of there. They paid their own way to go back up and come back down. They just had so much fun doing it. So,
in case I forget, let me just tell you, there's a secret button. So when you push the joystick up front, it's full speed. And then if you push it even further, which they don't tell you, it's maximum speed. It lifts up a bit. So there you go.
And all the while you're going down, they'll be yelling at you, slow down, slow down, slow down. You should probably slow down a little bit, but you won't go off the track. Any other questions? If not, then let me just sit here, and those of you who've got it, I'll start collecting stuff and get myself organized. I have paper clips.
Before we start, this may actually be the high point of your whole MBA program. What Lewis and I have found is that when you come back many years later as alumni, inevitably the first thing we discuss will be the China trip. So it's something to really look forward to.
Let me sit here. Remember, I need those. You're going to be bringing to me now your application.